Hi, happy hump day.
Happy hump day. How are you?
Good. It's a massive countdown to Christmas, hey?
Oh, yes, I know. I can't believe I keep for some reason still thinking we're in November because I keep looking at, when all the Christmas parties are and everything, and I'm just like, why are people doing it now? And then I'll realize, oh, it's like 3 weeks away from Christmas. So
Yeah, it is full on at the minute. I have something, well, this weekend after the Wednesday. No, I have something every weekend.
Oh, wow. Yes, I'm going to a faculty Christmas party, which I'm told is going to be quite fancy on Monday. So I'm like,
Just fancy.
I'm like, what should I bring? And I'm like, I need to bring wine, and I know nothing about wine. And I'm like, shit. I'm like having to go to Dan Murphy's probably and be like, what is a good wine?
Yeah, they have good people there usually to advise
Yeah,
you.
exactly. I don't know. Most people drink red, or is it better to go with white? I don't know.
No, like I'm a red. I prefer red myself. This depends. Is it a day event or a night event?
It's a night event.
Probably a red.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. I would drink Coke, of course, but
Of course.
how's your Christmas shopping going?
Oh, I still got to get a couple of presents. Yeah, I'll have to do that this weekend probably. I'm just thinking about all the baking. You know, I do all the baking.
Yes,
When
yes.
am I going to do that? I'll literally be baking Christmas Eve. I can
Oh
just
my gosh.
feel it now. But yeah, the baking. I'm working, and the thing is, I'm working right up until pretty much till Christmas Eve. So
Mm.
it's busy, but it's okay. It'll work out. Always does.
Yes, positive,
Mm.
definitely.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. What
So
have we got going?
we have a new story from the BBC,
Mhm.
and the title reads, Lady Susan Hussey quits over remarks to charity boss Ngozi Fulani. Hope that I pronounced that right. Now, if you heard this story, you're living under a rock because it's been everywhere. But let's read it in case you haven't. The Queen's Lady in Waiting, and to be honest, I did not know this was a thing that they still
Lady in waiting.
waiting. I mean, I knew, you watch historical drama and they all have ladies in waiting, but I didn't think they actually had them still. And I'm not really sure what they do. But anyway, Lady Susan Hussey was the Queen's lady in waiting, has apologized and resigned after she repeatedly asked a Black British charity boss where she really was from. Oh, ridiculous. Ngozi Fulani, a charity founder, was questioned about her background at the charity event at the palace on Tuesday. Miss Fulani said that she was totally stunned by Prince William's godmother's comments. So she's Prince William's godmother. Okay. Which one's William? Is that the one?
The next day.
Yeah, I always get confused because it's Harry and William, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. The palace described the remarks as unacceptable and deeply regrettable. No shit. A spokesman for Prince William said, racism has no place in our society. Oh, I love these. I love these little,
Sound bites. They mean nothing.
of like that mean nothing in general. You're actually not saying anything. But anyway, like it would be different if he said, oh, her comments are deeply regrettable and racist. But of course, that's not what he said. But anyway. The comments were unacceptable, and it's the right of the individual to step aside with immediate effect. Lady Hussey, 83, was a close confidant of the late Queen and accompanied her at the funeral of Duke Edinburgh last year. She was a key and trusted figure in the royal household for a decade, and part of her latest role was involving helping host occasions at Buckingham Palace. Miss Fulani, in an interview with an independent website, said the issue was bigger than one individual. It's institutional racism. I was in shock after it happened, and anybody who knows me, I don't take that kind of nonsense, she said. But I had to consider so many things. As a Black person, I found myself in this place where I wanted to say something, but what happened would automatically be seen as my fault. It would bring my charity, Sister Space, down. It would be like, oh, she has a chip on their shoulder. Miss Fulani said she did not want to see Lady Hussey vilified. An eyewitness to the conversation, Mandu Reid, told BBC News that Lady Hussey's questions were offensive, racist, and unwelcoming. The leader of the Women's Equality Party said she had felt a sense of incredulity. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, about the exchange in which Miss Fulani was interrogated about where she was from, even though she explained she was born and lived in the UK. In a statement, Buckingham Palace said, "We take this incident extremely seriously and have investigated immediately to establish the full details. In this instant, unacceptable and deeply regrettable comments have been made. We have reached out to Ngozi Fulani on this matter and are inviting her to discuss all elements of her experience in person if she wishes. In the meantime, the individual concerned would like to express her profound apologies for the hurt caused and has stepped aside from her honorary role with immediate effect. All members of the household are being reminded of the diversity and inclusivity policy which they are required to uphold at all times." Miss Fulani was at the reception at Buckingham Palace on Tuesday, representing the London-based charity Sister Space, which supports women of African and Caribbean heritage across the UK who face domestic and sexual abuse. Along with 300 guests, she was invited to the event where the Queen Consort Camilla, she's the Queen Consort, had warned of a global pandemic of violence against women. But afterwards, Miss Fulani described on Twitter how the royal aide moved her hair aside to see her name badge, then challenged her to explain where she was from. In a post, Miss Fulani referred to the palace aide only as Lady SH, but Miss Reid confirmed to BBC News that the person who had made the remarks was Lady Susan Hussey, having seen her name badge. Neither Buckingham Palace nor the charity named her, which is annoying. BBC approached Lady Hussey for a comment through Buckingham Palace. So then it talks, it actually has a transcript.
Oh, you've got to read it. That's why I picked that one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Lady SH, where are you from? So
we should do it together. I've got to get it. I've got to get it. One sec.
I've got to get it because
all right, I'll be Nada.
Yeah, I'll be Lady SH.
All right, ready. Okay, we're fine. Let me just find the script. Okay, let's do it. All right, go.
Okay, right. Where are you from?
Sister Space.
No, where do you come from?
We're based in Hackney.
No, what part of Africa are you from?
I don't know. They didn't leave any records.
Well, you must know where you're from. I spent time in France. Where are you from?
Here, the UK.
No, but what nationality are you?
I'm born here and I'm British.
No, but where are you really from? Where do your people come from?
My people? Lady, what is this?
Oh, I see. I'm going to have a challenge getting you to say where you're from. When did you first come here?
Lady, I'm British national. My parents came here in the 50s when...
Oh, I knew we'd get there in the end. You're Caribbean.
No, lady. I am of African heritage, Caribbean descent, and British nationality.
Oh, so you're from...
Yeah, and then they stopped with... I was just love it because I've had that conversation so many times as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was just like that. And it's so very offensive. And I don't understand why people don't understand why that's offensive. But yeah.
Yeah. So if people want to know, so a realistic question, if you actually want to know someone's background, what should we ask? What should they ask?
What's your background?
Exactly. Like, it's not a trick question, actually. I was going to say, People ask me all the time, what's your heritage?
Yeah, what's your heritage? And ask it with curiosity, because that wasn't like a interrogation.
Yeah, that's the difference, is that insisting that, you know, I want to know, not for out of curiosity, because if she had picked up, because she said in there, you know, I don't know, they don't leave any records, that might have been a good segue to go, oh, really? What happened there, do you think? And then, I don't know, you might have talked about the fact that, you know, they came as slaves or something like that. Therefore, you know, it wasn't, so you're not focusing on the person. So I don't know. Anyway.
Also, she'd already said, British born, live here.
Yes.
And then the fact that she carried on is just saying, well, just because you're born and live here doesn't mean you're British, basically.
Oh, 100%. 100%. So, and at some point, you got to realize, if somebody doesn't want to talk about their background or doesn't want to say about their background and not interested in having that conversation, then you need to move on, you know. And
she wasn't picking up the cues at all, was she?
She wasn't picking up the cues, but that's not surprising. For someone with a privileged background who basically gets her questions answered all the time, I guess, is not used to not having her curiosity about stupid things challenged. So
I didn't even feel like it was curious. Well, it was a bit of curiosity, but it was veiled in an insistence that you were not British.
Yeah.
You were not of here. You don't belong here.
Yeah.
You're foreign.
Yeah. No, it's not the right kind of curiosity. It's that 2 seconds of, I know what's happening here. Like, I know you're of African descent somehow. Answer my question, I'll move on. So I can, you know, I can move on to better things. I don't know. It's,
but yeah, it is something I've had so many times. What was interesting as well, because I think the story is published by another news city first, and I read that one. And then that news NC allows for comments from the public. And so I was looking at some of those comments, and some of the comments were like, well, if she's British, then why is she dressing like African? Why does she have her hair African? Why is she wearing African clothes? These are the kind of comments I was reading. Really? And it made me think about your hesitance to wear a sari to work.
Yeah, no, 100%, because it's because I don't know what it is about people in multicultural societies wanting to have someone who's an immigrant or even of a different, you know, heritage, to completely erase their heritage to become part of this multicultural society. Like, why do people need to do that?
Exactly.
I mean, it's really crazy.
It is. But it annoys me as well, because you have people in Britain that may be Irish heritage or German or European heritage, and generally you don't see them hiding it, and they might not be as obvious, because, to be fair, the cultural is very similar, as in, you know, your appearance, what you wear, but there might be certain traditions, like if it's German or French or Scottish or whatever, that you would hold. You would continue to celebrate because it's part of your heritage, and people do that. And I really don't see that they get this type of and you know, lashback.
They get celebrated. Like, if somebody
celebrated,
you know, French people are very particular about their food, or, you know, this is what they will eat and this is how they eat it, or they need a ton of, I don't know, whatever. They'll be like, oh yes, they are, you know, whereas if you're, you know, whatever, of African descent or Indian descent or something, and you go, no, I want to eat this, or I like eating this, I don't know, it's maybe not looked at with the same positivity as if you're of European background. I also, of Miss Fulani's comment though, of how she handled it, that's what I also feel is also very hard on people of color. And there was a video I watched yesterday of an Aboriginal actor, and I forgot his name because I'm terrible with names. Anyway, he said the same thing. It's like, people of color who come up in situations like this, they always have to, like, their reaction must be tempered. Like, you can't be this loud, angry, you know, black person, you know, because then there's this whole other people.
Then this whole stereotype, angry,
exactly, and
aggressive.
There's no the conversation moves on from what this lady did and all the questioning to how she reacted. That would be the conversation. And I feel sad that she did that. And that's why she didn't react like she normally would and call the woman out, because she was in a place that she knew that they would judge her first before actually looking at what this lady's comment was. So she had to be completely not saying anything, basically, for people to then notice what this lady was saying that was actually deeply offensive. So,
well, this is the thing, and I found myself in this situation. Obviously, depending on the context, I don't care, and I'll say what I need to say. But she's right. You'll be in situations where you have to be very careful. You actually have to think and have a considered response, because it does become, well, you become the persecutor.
Yeah, absolutely.
You become the persecutor in that scenario if you're not very careful. And then you also become the person that has to justify or point out what's wrong about that. Then it becomes your responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate. It really shouldn't be that way.
No, it sucks. It sucks that they have to, their reactions are always monitored. Like, you can only react to this level or something like that because you're scrutinized so hard based on the color of your skin. It's not right. It's almost like if you are that certain skin type, you have to be better than everybody else. Your behavior has to, be sympathized with or understood.
Your behavior you have to be very considered. But I mean it's easy to say you behave a certain way. It depends what you've resolved within yourself and how you react. How you could react is you could say, let's just say, listen, Lady SH, I understand what you're asking me. And do you understand how offensive your questions are?
Yeah.
Because you're implying that because I have Black heritage that I'm not British. Because even though I was born here and raised here.
Yeah.
Even though I have an African sounding name.
Yes.
You're saying I'm a foreigner in a country where I was born and raised. And that's offensive.
Yep.
If you want to know what heritage is, then this is what you ask. That's probably what I'd say. It's nice to say respond like that, but in the moment, half the time you're in a combination of shock.
Yes.
That somebody's actually doing this. And also if you've got any emotion around that, if you've got anger or whatever, then you're managing that and trying to have it. So because you potentially will be seen as the persecutor. Like you've got a chip on your shoulder about racism and all this kind of things that you hear.
And absolutely, and we also have to keep in mind that some of these guys, they have to go through this conversation once every day or twice every day or something like that.
It's regular. It's not a one-off.
It's a regular thing. So the level of exhaustion you have related to always having to answer this question can't really be downplayed by much, because some other people just never come across something like this and don't realize how annoying it is. And
and actually sometimes I'm a bit mean, I'll be honest, and I play like I told that story last time about the guy in the bar who was doing the same thing. Where are you from? Do you remember? The next bar, a guy went like, where are you from?
Yes.
And then I was like, Sydney, where are you from? He's like, no, but where are you from? I thought, well, actually, I don't sound Australian. Actually, I'm from the UK. I was born there. Where are you from? And he was really offended by that question. Do you remember? I was like, I'm from Australia.
Yeah.
So that's sometimes I play with people and ask them the question back.
Yeah. And it's amazing that they're offended, right, by the question that they've just asked. It's
So I asked that question, where are you from? But actually, I might be surprised they might not be from. And it depends, to be honest, no matter how they answer, it's useful for me. If they answer, oh, I'm from somewhere else, that's great. We can have an interesting conversation and, talk about backgrounds and where people are born. But then if they're all from here and there's the element of course, then that's another conversation. This makes me laugh.
Exactly. Oh, yeah. Well, there's that. And I don't think the Buckingham Palace is going to appreciate all of this, given, isn't William and what's her name, Meghan,
Meghan.
documentary or something?
Yeah, it's come out. I think it's out now. But actually, I wanted to talk about the other side, Lady Susan. She's 80 something. People are going to say, oh, she's old, she's ignorant.
Yes.
This is true, but it's not an excuse.
Mm.
And actually, I feel sorry for her. I do actually feel sorry for her because she is old and ignorant. Let's just say that's calling out for what it is.
Mm.
She clearly doesn't understand. So I feel like it's a bit of a cop-out to just have her resign, and because she doesn't want to, it's about the royal family and not bringing them into disrepute or it's, you know, in the limelight for this particular thing. But I think they missed an opportunity there, because then what happens is it makes the person calling it out the persecutor, and it makes her the victim. And I think that's not what we want to keep happening. We want it to be more of a conversation and an understanding. And maybe you can't get an understanding, but an attempt at an understanding. That's what I would have liked to have seen. I'd like to have seen a conversation and a genuine apology, an acknowledgement of, oh, well, I understand why that's offensive. That's what would have been better than and maybe she doesn't understand, maybe she doesn't agree, but a conversation.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't even spoken on record, I don't think. So that's not surprising that the palace wants to bury it. So
yeah, I just think a conversation. Maybe, you know, some people say, oh, they're old, they can't change now, they have these thoughts, but you can change at any time. You really can. It's always a choice.
Yeah, it's the willingness of wanting to change, I don't think.
Yeah, it's about willingness, exactly. And it's about recognizing what you're doing. And I actually just think the older you are, the better, not the easier it is for change, but the more you've seen and the more things you will have seen in your life that were not true. You become more aware of things that you may have thought one way and then you realize they're another way. Because things have changed, so much has changed in the world.
Yeah, unless though you have a very closeted view of your life, which I imagine this, you know, like you change and you adapt based on the environment. And even though I imagine in her lifetime there's been a lot of changes, if she's just been this person who's had one kind of experience most of her life, which I imagine she has, then maybe she hasn't noticed that the world around her has changed.
It's interesting, hey?
Yeah.
But I kind of I do take things like that with a pinch of salt when it's somebody that age, because I realize that, but it's still not an excuse, and you still need to say something about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just had it with the royal family. I'm kind of over it. I don't care. I'm just like, what point is Australia going to be independent?
But to me, it's not about the royal family. It's about an older generation having a view and it being highlighted. I mean, how many people have older people in their families that have those kind of attitudes?
Absolutely. But I mean, the royal family is a family of power, and and I don't intention enough to know what kind of influence they have, but to think that they don't have an influence is crazy. So, and if someone so close to the Queen can be this ridiculous, then I don't know. I can't imagine there's a lot of wisdom around in there. Well, anyway.
Yeah, scary, isn't it?
All
right.
Righty.
Okay, we've had that before.
Yes.
How you ask the question, the intention. If you want to know why somebody is dark-skinned,
yes,
which is what you're asking really,
yes,
then ask the question,
yes,
with curiosity. What is your background? And that's the right question to ask. Not where are you from, because where they're from could be where you're from.
Yes, 100%. And then listen to what they say and pick up on the cues.
Well, if you want to talk about it now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Ish. All right. we've talked about so many times as well. The next story is highlighting a completely different discriminatory bias that we have. I think this is something that's coming far, but also we still have a lot of work to do. And we wanted to talk about this because it is actually the International Day for People with Disability, or it was this month, December, earlier this month. So we thought it was really good to bring awareness and attention to that. On the 3rd of December, we celebrated International Day for People with Disability. And the story is about Kurt Fearnley. Kurt Fearnley is quite a famous person with disability.
Yes.
Did he ride, right? Did he cycle?
Don't know which sport it was.
It's a sport. I know it's a sport. I was like,
sorry.
No, it's terrible. But yeah, he is. Yes. Actually, I love that you see, like, you've got the Paralympics is amazing.
Yes. He is a sportsman. I don't know which sport. I don't watch sport.
He's a sportsman. So this is the title of the story, and it's his kind of quote. I dug deep into the big issues for people with disability in Australia today. This is what I learned. He says, I've been to quite a few International Day of People with Disability events and celebrations over the years. I cherish the focus on people with disability each year and the strong intent to do better and create a more accessible and equitable Australia. My own thoughts and conversations with my community have always suggested meaningful change for people with a disability still has a way to go. What started as discussions with mates turned into something a bit more, and over the past year I've spent time deep diving into some of the big issues for people with disability in Australia today. I looked at things alongside relevant law wherever possible, but in particular I looked at the Federal Disability Discrimination Act, the law which is designed to protect people with disability against discrimination and promote the acceptance of their rights. And then it says, what does as far as even mean? Because when the Act came into place 30 years ago, 3 key objectives were outlined. Eliminate, as far as possible, discrimination on the ground of disability. Ensure, as far as practicable, equality before the law for people with disability. And to promote community acceptance of the rights of people with disability. And then he goes on to say that it doesn't have the legal credentials to debate the merit of the term as far as. It seems okay if held in the spirit, I'm sure, it was written with. But should discrimination law be left to spirit? Have we gone as far as we need when it comes to protection from discrimination for people with disability? And has a community acceptance come along as far as it needs to ensure the rights of people with a disability? My work on ABC podcast, Let Us In, has been an eye-opening exploration of disability rights and where we are at with disability in Australia today and what we learned. So we spoke with Australians making their way through life with disability, interacting with our education system, housing, access to public places, employment opportunities, transport and identity. And we tackled the big one with the past few years, looking at what it is like for Australians with disability in the COVID world. Our investigation showed that despite the annual good intent on International Day of People with Disabilities, we haven't gone as far as we need to in the past 3 decades, and as far as I can tell, we've got a long way to go. We still have a segregated education system. It's one of the things.
Yes.
I'm not going to read that. We found that the impact of unemployment, which for people with disability in Australia is about twice the rate of those without disability. And it has a big impact on health in general, and particularly mental health. Our episode on access to public places featured a modern day David and Goliath story, and with a challenge to disability law, which made it all the way to the High Court. David Cawthorne has been fighting the case for wheelchair access to Hobart's Parliament Square as part of its $330 million redevelopment. But in the end, the High Court overturned a decision of the Tasmanian Supreme Court in a jurisdictional wrangle between the state and federal anti-discrimination laws. I don't even know why that had to go to court. It's crazy, isn't it? If you're redeveloping a square or whatever, a federal building, whatever, surely you have to put in access.
Surely. Like, that seems stupid to me.
Especially if you're redeveloping it.
Yeah. To take it to court. Like, just
why did that even have to go to court?
Ridiculous.
Anyway, one of the stories about disability that appears the most in Australian news is the difficulty of accessing transport and the rights of people with disability. It's one of the issues. And then there's a former Disability Discrimination Commissioner, Graham Innes, suggested the Disability Discrimination Act is not fit for this purpose and more was needed. And then he goes on to talk about what exists in Europe and the USA, which is an Airline Accessibility Act, which actually directs airlines and airports and various authorities at airports. Didn't know that. That's interesting. He says, in our look at what identity for people with disability means, I defer to my own experience. The way you see people with a disability matters because it will shape how you interact with us. And that's the same for everyone. The way you see them shapes how you interact with them. And this is important because it shapes in part how we see ourselves. True. Often people with disability are seen with sympathy or fear. And sometimes we are told that we just don't belong. He says, but it's not all doom and gloom. It's actually a story of hope and opportunity. There is hope on the horizon after decades-long fight for changes to building codes to support accessible housing. Upcoming changes to the National Construction Code, which has been endorsed by most Australian states, will ensure all new housing is more accessible. And while the battle with COVID is ongoing, especially for people with disability, our episode on the pandemic showed that changes to conditions which support a diverse workforce can happen and fast, and may open new doors to employment for people with disability. This is not just good for people with disability, but for everyone. So where we are at when it comes to disability in Australia, as far as I'm concerned, our stories need to be told year round, not just on a single day, December. There needs to be genuine conversation and action, not just in the disability community, but between all Australians, lawmakers, governments, all levels of business, community groups and community, everyone. There you go. And there's 4.4 million people living with disability, visible and invisible, in Australia.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, look that up.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. But I like, what I do like to see, which you see more of, I don't know if we've had them, always had them, but I've just noticed them maybe, is the ads for recruitment specialists specialised with people with living with a disability.
Yeah. I did a project on that with them in uni, I remember, for something. Breakthrough Employment Services. They were specialised in placing people with disabilities in employment. So we went through and we did some interviews with some of the people over there. And yeah, it was really interesting.
What was interesting about it?
Well, because to me at that time, I didn't realize, first of all, that it was so challenging for them to be, you know, people with disabilities to find employment. Obviously, I'd never really thought about it. And the need for somebody specialized to help with that situation. And then how helpful it was when, you know, they were placed in employment, and it was so much easier to deal with people who were specialized in placing people with disabilities in employment. It made things so much smoother. And, you know, it goes to show that there is a need to be specialized in things like this, that it can't, you know, sometimes just be dealt with by normal agencies. Yeah.
I also think that, I mean, it just occurred to me, I think I know someone that does this for a living. I have to check. But anyway, not just specialized recruitment to find the job, the work for that person and the right employer, but also in employers need some sort of specialized support, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Because I was reading something else about the LGBTQI community in the workplace and how a lot of people hide part of their identity in the workplace. And it was around not only how their colleagues and employer might treat them, but around how maybe clients and customers might treat them, and how would that play out in the workplace. Would they be supported? You know, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So I feel like sometimes organizations, employers need that support. And I think that's where the diversity and inclusivity activities come in. You kind of need that for whatever. If you're employing the diverse workforce, then that support is necessary. That support and guidance is just support for you, right? The employer, not just employees.
Yeah.
Anyway, interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And it's helpful if that support and guidance comes from somebody with disabilities in this case.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree that has to be someone with that. You don't have to have a disability to understand how to help people with disability.
No, but
I think you just need to experience, like this lady I know who works. I think she does. I think she's like the caseworker for people. She doesn't have a disability.
No. I mean, like, if you're going to have, say, employ someone like the whole Aboriginal liaison officer, right? You can't have a non-Aboriginal person as an Aboriginal liaison officer because they don't understand. The same thing if you're going to employ someone for that position to maybe educate around disability, make sure that everybody understands all of that. I think it helps if you have that background or something, because otherwise you're kind of outside looking in, you know, a little bit. With a person who, say, for example, is employed to help people understand or whatever around LGBTQI, you know, issues and whatever. If you're not LGBTQI, you may miss things, you may not understand, there might be nuances that you have no idea about. So it is always better if you're going to be in a position where you're educating, where you're, you know, trying to find holes and gaps and, you know, being like, okay, we're not taking care of people in this situation, then it helps if you're in that situation. And
absolutely agree. I think though that it's a lot of pressure because, right, I'm Black, but doesn't mean to say I know every nuance, every issue, every problem, and say that this is how every Black person feels. So that's a lot of pressure for somebody to be in that educating mode, to say, well, you're the authority, you must know everything about, you know. And that's why I don't necessarily agree that you have to be part of that community to educate and support. You have to have some connection. You need to find a way. How do you connect? Personally, I feel like I connect with minorities in general because I'm a minority. But I can't profess to know what it's like to identify as transgender or bisexual or LGBTQ or Asian or, you know, but it doesn't mean I couldn't support in those spaces.
No, support is different. If you're hiring for a position that takes care of these certain, you know, people in society, though, I think it's important. It comes from me, born of this whole, you know, hearing since growing up that, you know, we're doing this for the Aboriginal community, all of this stuff. And it was a board of white people sitting there.
Yeah, you're right.
That's where it comes from, because for me, I think it's useless. If you're going to be like, oh, we're going to do this, and you have no representation whatsoever from that community, then you've seen it, that it's quite useful. It comes through and they're like, we're going to do this.
But do you know what it is as well? Is it don't consult with the stakeholders and take on board the voice. Exactly. So I don't necessarily think a white person couldn't do it. No. I just think you can't do it in isolation. Yeah. Like with just your own ideas. That's just not, that's not how it would work. Yeah. Because I was reading something else which made me have this thought. You know, all these initiatives and drive to have like Aboriginal liaison or reach out to communities, involve the community, there's this article saying how it's kind of not forced but put on employees that happen to have that heritage to deal with it, to take on that responsibility. And that's not really fair. Do you know what I mean?
No, but I think there are people out there, like, say, for example, we did a professional leadership thing last week at work. And one of the women who spoke and specifically about LGBTQI and her work around that was LGBTQ.
Yeah.
And she was so passionate, and she was so, of all the speakers of the whole day, actually, she was the most interesting, because she was very, like, even her language that she used to speak about it was not management speak. You can tell, like, everybody came through and we've done this and we've done that. It was very flowy, and she was very direct and very, this is what I've done, this is what I've changed, this is how we're going. It was really amazing to hear it. So you can actually tell the difference sometimes when somebody's actually passionate because they have a personal buy-in to that.
Yeah, she's got personal buy-in, and that's what I mean. Yeah.
So and she was obviously hired for that position, and it was the right position for her because she's so passionate about doing something like that. It's about that sort of thing for me. It's like, yes, pretty much probably other people can do that job, and do it pretty well. But she has this level of passion for it that, because this is her people, that's different,
Absolutely, totally agree. That's the best person for the job. I just think there might be people that have buy-in for the reasons. Like maybe their best friend was maybe a family, friends, whatever. And absolutely someone that's part of that community, totally. That's always the best person. People that really care about it.
Yeah, exactly. No, 100%. And it goes to that whole, I think I was reading an article recently in India that they're doing a movie around, the first movie around someone of transgender identity, which is amazing.
Like a Bollywood movie?
A Bollywood movie, yeah.
Ooh, that is controversial.
Amazing, right? But the woman who's playing her is not transgender, is actually, a woman.
Yeah.
So, and people were disappointed because there are actually transgender actresses out there who applied, to be in the movie and wasn't selected. And obviously they've done it because, the woman who is going to play is a famous actress and all of this and whatever. And I'm just like, I mean, I'm sure she'll do a great job. But to be honest, when you think about it, if you think about it, somebody playing that role, if they did have that background, it could possibly
be way more powerful.
Yeah, it could be a completely different movie, right? I don't believe that when it comes to, somebody who's gay or not, because I actually don't think if you're gay, you want to be pigeonholed into just playing gay characters. You should be allowed to play straight characters like Luke Evans, for example. But transgender, I feel like, is a whole other challenge in itself, an experience in itself.
So that's the argument for having the woman. She's an actress, she can play any character. And they argue that with trans people, they should be able to play a straight woman, a straight man, or whatever.
Yeah, but that, rightly probably won't happen. I mean, they can't even get transgender roles, let alone like normal
but
roles.
Baby steps, hey? It's a good news. Yeah, it's brilliant, that. All right, let's move on because we're in the So, Ina, what would you do? What would you do, Meenal? I really need to come up with a jingle. What would you do? Okay, so a co-worker is complaining that their team is switching their video call software to accommodate a visually impaired woman on the team. What would you do?
I'd say get over it. Like, it just happened to be one of my days.
It depends what day they caught you on. All right, if they caught you on a bad day, what would you say?
If they caught me this last week, I'd be like, are you seriously talking to me about this? Because you need to piss off. And just get over it. What are they called? What is that flower that everybody uses that is like, cupcake? I don't know, snowflake, yes. I would be like,
is that a flower?
I don't know, when people say get over it, snowflake or something.
I have no idea what that means. It's gotta be American.
Like, I've heard it somewhere. I'd be like, just go and have some real problems. Like, seriously. Can you please come and don't come back to me with any real problems, because I'm not going to take you seriously.
Right, and if they caught you on a good day, what would you say?
On a good day, I'd be like, okay, so what's What is the issue with switching to this new software? What is the actual problem aside from the inconvenience that you perceive? And then if she said something legitimate, I don't know how to download it, or I don't know how it works, I'd be like, okay, then let me help you download it. Let me show you how it works, or something like that. Or if it was something stupid, why did we need to change in the first place? It's I'd be like, you can suck my anyway. Which is my new favorite line for
Or you just say that without finishing. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, I think that's how I would do it. Maybe after my holidays it wouldn't be different. But yes, for now I think.
Yeah. I actually remember something similar happening at work. A new starter, and they were installing one of those mobile desk things.
Oh right.
And we haven't met this new starter, obviously. But people were complaining, they were like, oh, why do they get so the special desk? Kind of curious as well, like what, why? Because nobody knew who this person was coming was.
Yeah.
So there was rumblings. But also everybody wanted a
a desk that stands.
Yeah. Obviously nobody else was getting one. But ultimately this person started, they're lovely, you got to know them, and you understood that they'd had a serious accident and many years ago and had back problems, so they had to stand up a lot. And this is why, and that's great example of accommodating someone with a disability, basically. But how it was received was, what happened was they ended up putting, not everybody got a stand-up desk, but they would put a couple on each floor so that you could move to a stand-up desk and work. And that became more, because obviously people must have said something, well, it would be really nice because you just don't want to be sitting at your desk 8 hours or whatever. So that was the only time I've seen anything similar in this scenario. But if it said, and the person hears it or heard about people saying this about them, then that would, imagine how that would make them feel.
I know, it'd be terrible. Yet again, and I'm sure it's not the first time somebody's complained around them. So
yeah, probably not the first time somebody's complained that something's been. I mean, that's what equality means to me. It means making the environment, making everybody's environment in a way that they can thrive. Because when everybody's thriving, everybody's thriving. Yeah. And that's what it means to me. So it doesn't mean everybody gets treated the same, which to me is a bit of a misconception. To me, it means everybody's given the opportunity to thrive and be the best versions of themselves and contribute and feel valued and have meaningful work. So
absolutely,
I don't really see how you have a problem with that. But anyway, this is what it's saying. It matters because employees with disabilities hear this comment, they may feel as though they aren't valued, don't belong. And it affects more people than you realise. And I said 4.4 million Australians have a visible and invisible disability. It's a lot. What is that? It's like nearly 20%, isn't it, of the population?
Are you really asking me to do math?
Yeah, it's about 20% of the population, so that's like 1 in 5.
Yeah.
But then I imagine some of them might be not of working age, but anyway, 1 in 5 Australians, visible and invisible disability. And it has a big impact. Employees with disabilities are often less happy at work than their colleagues. And that gap goes away when workplaces are accommodating and inclusive. It's just something to think about, right?
Absolutely.
That was all. Do you have anybody with disabilities, visible and invisible, in your workplace?
No, I don't believe so. Not in our we have a few people with, as you said, like back injury and stuff, who need to, say, for example, need a standing desk, need to go for a walk every hour or that sort of thing.
So yeah, you do then.
Yeah. That be considered a disability? I don't know.
If it's permanent. It could be temporary, but I mean, it might be permanent. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
What would be interesting if there wasn't even the disability term? It's just differing abilities. Maybe that's what disabilities means.
Yeah.
Differing abilities.
Yeah.
As opposed to disabled, which sounds more harsh. It's just that everybody has differing abilities. So we provide an environment to allow them to thrive, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
And we gain a lot as well. Like with everything. If you have diversity, you make your environment better in general.
All right. Better wrap it up. I love talking to you. That was very funny. I liked your response.
Probably not the positive, response we want, but anyway, whatever.
Oh, we're just being real, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right, lovely. Happy Hump Day, everyone. See you later. Bye.